The man said to be a Nigerian lawyer and who has been identified simply as Mr. Ebong was caught on camera beating up his wife during an argument over a key. The man brutalized his wife until she broke her mouth and she started bleeding. It took the intervention of neighbors to stop him from further attacking her. Now, this is a story that is quite familiar with us because we've taken these kind of stories several times over the years. But for whatever reason, the information is still not getting out there to enough families or even husbands not to hit their wives. You can call us on the numbers on your screen because the video was quite disturbing. And what was even more disturbing for me as a person were the comments under the post, under the said post. Lots of people seem to be alluding to the fact that she was overreacting. She was trying to get public sympathy by coming out and screaming loud enough for neighbors to hear. And these are some of the things we've heard women complain about because they rather just die in silence. So what are your thoughts on this scenario that just happened? You can call us on 081 0764 1679 090 241 63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Entertainment and use the hashtag #YourView on TVC so we can read your tweets. Ladies, this was quite disturbing to watch. I mean, it's not the first time we're discussing domestic violence. I mean, we discuss it quite often. Yeah, we do. But this is quite blatant. You see it right there, and he's not even trying to hide it.
No, doesn't care. Yeah, so I think society should do better. We can't close our eyes to these sort of things happening around us, and, you know, people are just standing from afar and watching. I heard somebody saying that this is what happens every night, that he actually beats her up every night. It happens every night, and yet people have not tied him up to flog him back. And you are in that environment. We need to protect ourselves better. We need to always assume that, or always ask yourself a question, if this was my sister, what would I do? We need a lot more empathy. We need to put ourselves in that person's position. And I understand that when it comes to marriage disagreements, domestic violence, a lot of people don't want to get involved because at the end of the day, they will settle and use it to settle. But should it matter whether they settle with you? Should it matter whether they call you a witch? Should it matter whether they call you someone who doesn't mind their business? Is that more, is your own image more important than just giving a helping hand to somebody? That's one aspect of it. Then secondly, I used to think that with education, we do better. That's the idea of, you know, going to school, following personal development, you know, because you now see things from a broader perspective. You can do better. You can make the right decisions. I'm shocked that this person is a lawyer and you can get down to this sort of thing and you're okay with it. It's very unfair to a woman. Whatever, because people were saying, why is she holding his key? Why is she holding whatever she does? It's not enough for you to beat a woman to the point that she's bleeding and half naked on the streets. And tomorrow, two of you will come back and you sleep with each other again and continue that relationship. How would other people around look at the wife who you have, you know, brought out naked outside? You're not even thinking about that.
You know, I'm also linked that up to that story about the man in the UK who killed his wife. I mean, he was living in Nigeria and his wife did the papers for him to come and join them. And recently, we took that story now recently, and he was in the UK. They had a fight, and then he killed her. Yeah. I think the police now came and they saw him and they arrested him or something like that. But the point is that domestic violence does not matter the education or the exposure. It happens across the world.
Yeah. So that's why it's a mental health issue. So rich or poor, educated or non-educated, this is a problem that's affecting many homes. And that is why in choosing a partner, you also need to consider their mental health, the sort of people they are under pressure, all sorts of different scenarios, how they respond to issues like that. So we've seen so many of this. We hope she's doing well, and I hope that she's able to choose her peace and choose her health, her own mental health and her physical health over this toxic situation. Obviously, the man is a bully. He did what he did. I hear that when people were trying to, to intervene, he found his legs into his house and locked the gate. So he knows that if they would have caught him, they
can beat him.
Yeah. You know, you were saying something, BC said something about how would it look after they've come back together and then after he's publicly embarrassed her. Well, he has publicly embarrassed himself too.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of lawyer that you are obviously not qualified to be one. I hope this also means that the body, of lawyers can look into this and able to call out people that behave like this. Many times we've seen them call out young girls who they think they are badly dressed or not. There are some things as serious as this as well that does not speak well for your profession, for the profession. And that man needs to be made an example of. If he's unable to carry himself in the way that shows that he's a professional with a learned person, then, he should not be part of that profession. Then I hope this ends up in court. Do you understand? So that I just feel that women find themselves in this position. I don't know what to do next, what it means. Because if you tell me I've used all my resources and everything, I've built this home. If you tell me that I should just step away, to what? So if this ends up in court and I'm meant to step away, hopefully court will make sure that I step away with something that I can continue with my life or have custody of the children. So that's why you find a lot of women just in situations like that where they just seem...
Now, I was going to come to when women like this they stay there, and a man like that could be a fantastic father. I know you tried to correct us. But you see, a man like that can be a good provider. A man like that can be perfect community, celebrated in the community, is well respected. He could be attending all the residential meetings. He's there, he's contributing. He could be so I'm just saying why women stay. They weigh the options, but it's just this beating. He provides. The children are doing well. He raises them well. He's there. The community respects us. He's the president of the whatever association. And, so in that situation, when you see this kind of person, would you advise the wife? Because many women are in that situation right now. Their husband is almost good in everything else except for this one thing called beating.
Is he a man if he cannot control himself? Because really, the idea of domestic violence and battery is because the man is so angry, he can't control himself, he can't express himself in other way than to beat that child. It's a lot to control yourself. I'm dealing with controlling myself with my kids, that I'm no longer going to beat these boys. I am going to control myself, and they get on my nerves. Like, I got home yesterday and I have Roblox on my laptop. They downloaded, he unlocked my laptop, downloaded Roblox. He was playing games, watching YouTube on my work laptop. That laptop cost me a lot of money. I saved to buy it. And he was drinking, and he knows how precious it is to me. So in my mind, I was going to tear him to pieces. Like, how dare you? Like, I seized your own laptop, and you took my laptop. Like, the effrontery.
It's okay.
So this is me. See, you can feel my hand. I would have beat him up. To do what? To express my anger.
You felt it.
So I used my words over and over to express my anger without insulting him. And it took a lot of control. So I understand how a man can be so angry and think he cannot control himself, because it takes a lot of effort to control yourself. You are not a man if you cannot control yourself. You're not a woman if you cannot control yourself. You are a human. As you grow older, the real responsibility is for you to control. Like, I feel like smacking you, but I will hold it and talk. That is what makes you a man. So when that man says they took my key, you took my house key, you're locking me in the house, whatever the excuse, you feel like lashing out, but you are a man, you are not a dog. So you will control yourself. You are a man, you're not an animal, you will control yourself. Now, there is a challenge on our hand, in challenge of how does a woman move on from this? Because
let me pause for that challenge. I have to call, I'll come back to it. Let's not dig into the challenge immediately. Let me take Emmanuel from Asaba.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You're live.
Thank you very much. I'm the first time.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Good morning.
Go ahead.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Good morning.
You're repeating yourself. We're listening to the TV. Go ahead, please. Okay, we cut them. Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing, and I have a caller, Olabode from Akuti. Thanks for calling, Olabode.
Yeah, good morning. morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, I just want to contribute a little to what happened, the lawyer and the wife.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, it's so ridiculous and funny that a man of such profession would go to that extent to disgrace himself and, you know, to put the wife in such a situation for the fact that it doesn't make him a man. It makes him a less of a man, beating the wife in such a way. But on the other hand, I would like to advise our women as well. Ladies nowadays. I saw a video where they were asking them, would you prefer to stay in a room apartment than to cry in a mansion than to laugh in a room apartment? We should always be very careful when we are choosing. You know, it's so funny, but we should be very careful when we are choosing.
Thank you. I don't know.
No, but he's saying about choice. I like what he said, that many Mrs.
Sometimes you don't know. You see,
no, Mrs. Buku said that you would see the flags. You would just feel like it will not happen to you. You feel like, yes, it might lash out at the driver, it might lash out at the house girl or something, but not me. He loves me. He will never do it to me. We see it. I know someone that she was dating. The boy had strangled her. Like strangled. There were fingerprint mark. And she still carried belly for the man. After then. So we see the red flags in most cases, especially when it comes to violence. You would have seen the man losing control. Yeah. You now just still compensate, or you are hoping your love would cover up for that person's weakness. It doesn't work. So we walk into it and they were hoping we are not the recipients of...
But there's always that angle of what do you do to provoke? Because I think we discussed it last week, where they'll tell you that, so even though you marry somebody who you think is a good person, and maybe while you're dating, he never did anything, never strangled you, never raised his voice. And then somebody will tell you, oh, you must have provoked him. Because sometimes it's not as if women would actually intentionally walk into danger. Some women do. But in many cases also, some women go in, they tick all the right boxes, they do everything right. And they get into a marriage and they realize that this person has temper issues, or maybe there's certain areas, something has to do with certain things, gets him aggravated.
Or something triggered it, maybe they lost their job.
How would you know? Yes, financial issues happen.
Triggers.
Yeah.
Mariah, you will know by how the person handles day-to-day issues. These things are not rocket science. It's just that when you're in love and probably you are desperate or in a hurry to, get married, you want to just check the boxes and you close your eyes to those important information that is very big. You cannot say that he never lost his temper once. So where did that come from? Anything could have happened and he lost his temper. And there was a guy that I knew at the time. When he gets upset, he will take whatever he sees and stones. He destroys properties. Now you tell me that he was not beating anybody. He was only destroying properties. You think you're not property to him tomorrow when he gets upset? Yeah. We see the signs, but we ignore the signs. And we're talking about how does the lady move on from this? First of all, the lady needs to understand what is happening to her. Sometimes, because of the emotional attachment that comes from violence and love and violence. So, for instance, he beats her, he apologizes, they make up. He beats her again, he apologizes, they make up. There's usually an attachment that comes to that toxic behavior. Toxic in the sense that you now see love and, what will I call it, the beating now as a total package, that they come together. Your brain is now wired to accept it as what love really means. I had a friend in the university who dumped a guy because the guy was not beating her. Ew. Now, the first guy she was dating will beat her to coma. She will be in the hospital 3 days. She has not opened her eyes. And then, after that relationship, that one traveled and got somebody pregnant and left her. She found another guy. And because this guy was so loving, so she was no longer used to the normal. The abnormal became normal to her. So this lady needs to understand, needs help, therapy first of all, to even understand where she is, because she may not even know. And that's why the excuses and justification comes from, but he's a good father to the children. No abuser is ever a good parent to any of the children. Because what makes you a good parent is that you're able to provide emotional needs for your family, your physical needs, your psychological needs, your financial needs, all these things.
That's a perfect man. There's no perfect man out there. There's no perfect. Let's be realistic.
Now, there's no perfect man, right? In terms of maybe the financial is not so strong.
Not necessarily.
Or the emotional time giving is not so strong. But when it comes to psychological, because what happens in abuse is that every day your person is being chipped off. Every abuse that comes reduces you from your person. After a while, that woman will no longer recognize herself. She will no longer have an identity.
Okay.
And you say because they can provide financially,
looking at
he's a good person.
Yeah, looking at how our parents grew up, because we are now enlightened. Yeah. We are now more exposed. We have more information compared to back then. So many women, they weather these storms of the imperfect man. He's a verbally, emotionally abuser. They kind of weather that storm, and they still raised, yeah, maybe not perfect kids, but somehow society kind of just adjusted. So we're saying that, yes, it's good to be enlightened, it's good to be more knowledgeable, but does it further restrict us? Because now we're seeing a lot of people saying, you know what, because I want our happiness, I don't want anybody disturbing my peace, I just want to be a happy woman, I don't mind being 90 years old, just don't let me live happily, and nobody's messing up my mental health. Would we rather that choice than go through because there'll be some crazy human beings, but some women are able to kind of just weather that storm. Okay,
so you're right. From where we're coming from, mental health was never a consideration for anything. Yeah. People will see you just, dripped in gold and whatever, traveling the world, and no one would care how you really felt about things going on. We'd see women who we would know their men were openly cheating on them or, abusing them, but because they were dressed well and they could buy anything they wanted, we just assumed that they were fine. And then you would sit with them years after, and you hear their sadness and how miserable they were, and you're thinking, in all this opulence, you felt this way. Well, there was no happiness, and so now we are in a generation where we know that it is more important than anything to be truly happy, because until you're happy, you're unable to give even to your children. Children that were raised in that situation, some of them, we see how it has affected them, it has traumatized them, and so when people when we have these conversations, is to say that physical presence or the fact that you're giving me money is not enough. After all, if it was enough, the trauma that comes from the abuse shouldn't affect me. You are such a wonderful person, but why is it that particular trauma from just the abuse, you're perfect in every way, but there's this trauma that comes from the abuse that's affected me, is affecting our children. Someone here once even taught us that when women say they stay because of the children, say that they don't stay for the children, they stay for themselves. Yes. Because if you stay for the children, you're thinking of their own well-being, you're thinking of how they will turn out tomorrow. And if they see this as an example every day, would you want for someday to have to go to your son's house because the wife has called you crying and he has been beating her up? And do you have the moral justification to open your mouth and tell him don't do that? He will say, Mommy, you accepted it. Why is it hard for her to accept it? Yes. So is that what we want for our children? Tomorrow, somebody places our faces on these people that talk about abuse. See their children, they're abusing because they refuse to handle what was happening in their home. So this is why we're having this conversation. We're asking people to make the decision for their mental health. That's the world that we're in now. Without mental and emotional strength, really, what else is important? What's happiness?
Yeah. Let me take the call from Babajide. Thanks for calling, Babajide. Oh, I'm so sorry I lost him. I was struggling to see if I should use myself as an example. I remember when I met my husband, and he never raised his voice at me. Not once while we dated. Not once. Not even mistakenly say, he was such a perfect gentleman. Until after we got married, and we had one first fight, and all hell broke loose, and he was screaming. I have never in my life seen anybody shout like that in my life. I was so traumatized. I cried, I called my mom, I called everybody, his dad, everybody came in. And his dad was begging me, please, he took it from me, but that is how please. And it took a while. Because the first few years, it was traumatic for me. I didn't understand, what is going on? Because you're upset, something happened, and you're screaming down. But over the years, it has reduced drastically. I exercised patience. Yes, I could have been maybe my mental health was affected initially. But because of the resilience I had as a person, I was able to way through it. I was able to enjoy the growth of him, understand and listen. You don't have to shout. You can have a conversation with me. And I was able to weather that storm of that period. Today, the chance I was earning back then is totally drastically, that's reduced about 60%. From what was. So if we are all preaching, mental health, once you see your husband do this, I'm not saying beating. if something happens and it's like, no, your mental health. And no, young people today don't have the resilience to stick around and say, okay, because I love this person, because we are together, I can stick around and see. They don't want to have that resilience. I'm leaving. I'm going. They're going to shout one shot like this. A young person would have left from week 1.
There's a reason.
So there's a difference.
So I'm just saying that if we keep acting as if every home must be, every man or every woman you marry must be so perfect. Once they enter, anything goes out of line, then you are in the wrong marriage.
Violence.
Oh, it's an extreme. Nobody's talking about violence. But something leads to violence. Nobody just wakes up and slaps you.
No.
It's it grows gradually.
There is the result of violence is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Because you might think I'm just pushing her and she hits her head and dies. And that's the end of the story. So shouting cannot kill you. Not in the moment. You can weather that storm. But if consistently, like because the man, let's not even make that the story. The truth is there are deal breakers. And anything that can lead to the covenant of life supersedes the covenant of marriage. If the shouting can kill you, and for some people it can, then you will, the covenant of your life.
Threshold is not.
Yes, they cannot sustain it.
Can't take it.
But for someone else, it's beating can kill them. So understand that there's a covenant of life. Oh, that one I took that one from Dr. Lumide's story.
First.
Your life is more important than the marriage. So protect your life, then sustain the marriage. Bible, there's a Yoruba scripture they always say in my church when I was growing up. Say binu mashe, like you can get angry but do not sin. It's in the Bible. It's okay for anger is normal. It's a normal emotion. But if my anger is leading me to sin, battery is sin. By the time my anger is making me exert that level of then it is already I'm falling into sin. So I must learn to control my anger, express my anger in a way that does not make somebody else damaged.
All right,
so that is the part that we need to deal with.
Good morning. Thanks for calling. You're live.
Interrupting.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Please,
Please.
In talking about dealing with the woman's perspective of this, is the fact that...
Sorry, let me pause you. I'm sorry, I have to go for a commercial break. We'll come back to hear your thoughts. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing this matter. Let me just get a... BC, or talk us finish.
Yes, I was saying that we needed to have, we need to provide more societal support for women. You know, you hear these ridiculous questions. What did you do? What did you say? You must have triggered him. How often does he beat you, safe? If it is not too much, you know, you can find a way to manage. Like, society isn't stepping up to protect the woman. Look, we're not even asking the man questions. We're not asking, why would you do such a thing? We're not picking on the man. We're picking on what the woman did. Somebody even had the nerve to say, she's shouting more than she... What did they do that she's shouting that much? When she's shouting, you would think that they've killed her. Like, I couldn't even believe my ears when I heard it. But that is it. We ask ridiculous questions of a woman, and we're not, and this is not so that they will not say we're being one-sided. Yes, there are cases where women are beating up their husbands. Yes, we've heard. We know it happens. We're not calling out the beating on a man by a man alone. We're calling out beating generally. If a woman beats a man, it is bad. If a man beats a woman, it is bad. Any form of domestic violence is bad. We're just citing this case because there's a video evidence of a man beating his wife, pushing her outside with underwear.
Yeah, so, you know, you asked the question, why is it that a lot of women these days, human beings these days, don't want to accept that sort of thing? They don't want to persevere. They are not resilient. You need to understand that the world is evolving. And as the world evolves generally, more is expected of human beings. Back in the day, we had things that we did things in a very crude way. You go to war, you carry cutlass, you carry hoe and all of that. Every generation, there's a sort of shift that happens. The human species change from generation to generation. The human species that we have now demand you to be better. You are expected to be able to manage. We have been shouting emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence. You should be able to manage yourself better, or nobody will take your nonsense. So the nonsense that we collected because of the species of human beings that we were at the time, our children will not take it. And we cannot say that they are worse off than we are, because a lot of us are still dealing with the trauma that we saw. You know, sometimes when I sit down and I see women who sort of find a way to justify abuse, I ask them, how was your parents? Sometimes they come from very good, loving homes where nobody collected slap or anything. You will not ask someone like me who saw
from beginning to the end of abuse and the after effect of what it happened or how it affects the children and how it affected me to sit down and collect a slap. It's not possible. I am seeing the world from within the soup. I don't get inside the soup before. And I'm now seeing the world from that prison. So if you're seeing the world from outside, you have not been thought far. So 5 years and 10 years of how it would affect you, affect your children. So you can easily justify it, but he provides. My father is a provider till tomorrow. Like, people rush to come to the house to marry him because your life is sorted once you meet him, right? But at the end of the day, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, look around and see how it has affected. For those people who finally become aware, they're able to start healing themselves gradually from it. For others, that's the end of life. Is that what I want for my family or for my children? So let's encourage people to behave better. So whether if you can shout, enter the room and shout at yourself. Don't shout at me. Don't raise your voice at me. Okay. My husband shouts, right? And it was also a battle to get him to an end. They don't shout at me. Oh. They don't. In fact, there was a time I told him, I said, I came from a very mad house. Oh. You go shout, I go carry bottle low. You don't have mind though. Your own mind is you shout 2 minutes, you are forgotten. Me, I will hold you. So is that what we want for our children? We had a conversation. I said, is that what you want for your children? And he reasoned with me and understood it. So we expect you to behave better. No excuse. No woman should take it. Whether I shout or whether it's beat or please, let's say no to it. No.
Yeah. So that also takes me to, where I was headed about not just also accepting abuse and calling it resilience, but in changing what we accept. People who think they are abusers or who think that's the only way they can deal with life would also learn a different way to deal with life. You understand that this is what I may lose or likely to lose if I act a certain way, so I better take care not to behave that way anymore. A lot of things that have been done before, it's just because also society allowed it, encouraged it. It was not seen as anything wrong. I used to say that when we were teenagers, there's one of my friends, I'd gone with her to her boyfriend's place, and he was saying, this is your friend. She did something. I had to give her 1 or 2 slaps. Whoa. The confidence and the normal way he said it is because that's how they talk there. I was so cold throughout, I could not believe it. But he was not saying in his world, he was not saying anything wrong. And she was smiling like, because in her world, it was okay to collect. But he cannot say it with his, because the person he is today, I promise you, he will never say it. He has learned that is not acceptable.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's part of what, as you said, we're evolving. People are different, I think there's a conversation I'm having with a friend of mine who was, she was trying to date. She's still in the dating circle, and she was just telling me the kind of things she would not take. So I hooked her up with this guy, and, and they went for a date. I think he didn't bring anything, no flowers, nothing. Okay, that one she could overlook. Then he didn't follow up. She just felt that it's disrespectful. And the guy was like, oh, sorry, I got tired of. And she didn't forgive him. She just felt like, listen, the right thing for you to do is treat me like a lady.
Check on
bring
me.
flowers. When we went for the date, there was nothing feminine. You didn't treat me as a woman. And then after that, you didn't even proper follow up. And then she broke it off. Me,
how old was this person?
Was age mate. Me, that I was hooking. I was like, Auntie, take it easy now. Yeah. But she's like, no, Mariah, I know what I want. I'm very clear. So it's right. We're evolving. Back then, that's too tiny an issue to make an issue. But today, women are evolving. You get me flowers. This is what I want you to do. If you don't do that, then walk, because I'm okay where I am. So we must pay attention to where we are right now and know that society is different. But we have to wrap up. I think one of the areas we are yet to talk about, the fact that how do we fix this? And we need more men speaking up against things like this, especially not just the land religious level. Regular folks, regular Nigerians.
Did you watch the video?
I did.
I
so
love
those
the fact
kind of men, we need those kind of men speaking more in those communities. We need more men like that who can defend, who can stop, who can hold. They didn't hold. They have to respect. They're also trying to respect.
Fast into his
he actually walked.
He ran away.
Yes, he did. He ran away.
So we need more men at all levels speaking up against domestic violence.
We need to change what is seen as normal. We need to, and it is by redefining the new normal, and that's why we're having this conversation over and over again, that beating your husband is not normal, beating your wife is not normal. Learning to find a way to communicate your frustration, or If you feel like, oh, I might beat, then step out of that place. Go into the toilet and sit down there and shout and, you know, do something to let go of that emotion per time. Is you dealing with your emotion. And also understand the effect on your children, because any child that sees this, there's a video that we saw that I think somebody posted it into the group about a man that was angry and pulled down his wife from the car, as well as the child. So that child was on the road with the wife on the road. That man is someone, he must have beaten inside the house before, but you now got so angry outside, you were arguing with your wife, probably inside the car, or your baby mama, that you parked your car and pulled down your wife from inside the car with a child, and go back in the car was going to go. That happens.
Random woman.
Whoever the person is, that is not right. So we must keep defining what is right, and it comes from conversations like this.
Okay, Chukwu, our final caller for this segment. Good morning, okay, Chukwu, are you there?
Messages.
Hello, okay, Chukwu, you're live.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. What I contribute to this is I will not support any man beating a woman. It's not right. But to get away with this, most parents should train their children, not female parents. They should train their female parents the way they relate with.
Did you get that?
He
Okay, we lost that. I think we need to do a whole show on this issue of what women do to provoke, this trigger thing you talked about, that nothing to do. No, I'm just saying that we need to help reorientate people. It's not about somebody provoking you. It's about who you are. So, because many people always ask the question, I hate domestic violence, but part of what did the woman do? So we really need to address it.
This example that provocation is like you're squeezing something. So if I am, you can't squeeze this cup now and produce coffee. I finish drinking it. No matter what I squeeze, nothing will come out because there's nothing inside it. If you bring out violence, it's because there's violence in you. That's why I can squeeze out violence from you.
Okay, let me give you this scenario. Because I've heard this like true story where a man says, I knew it was getting heated and I wanted to walk out of the house. She locks the door and says, you're going nowhere, and she's right in front of the door. I know that I am burning. I want her out. I mean, I want to get out.
Yeah.
But she has stood in front. She can see that the situation is, but she's standing right in front of the door. And she's like, kill me.
Go to the shower.
She would do like this, kill me, or you're going nowhere. So, yes, there are some situations, and then that's where we're talking about self-control.
Yeah, on both sides. I've shared my own story 100 times, where there was a time where back in the early days, where my husband was angry, I could see the rage. And he said, Muriel, if that kind of way, if you cross this line, and me, I knew when I saw the face, with all my confidence in the shouting, I backtracked. I entered my room.
But when you dare to, that means you have a part to play.
Yeah, because then, if the man hits you once, you've opened a whole new kind of worm. So you just don't even try to get to that point where there's a hit. So I just quickly step back.
But it also means that the person has capacity to hit.
Yes.
That's the part.
That's the scary part.
So I believe in you can be triggered, but you are triggered to do what is inside of you.
Yeah, at the end of
if it is not inside you,
it will not come out.
There's no triggering that will bring out orange from a pineapple tree.
Survivors. So when we are put in some situations to survive, at that point you're thinking survival.
Fight, or you're just your ego is bruised.
So are you saying that everybody has the capacity to beat?
Oh, human beings, of course. We all
anyway, we have to wrap up. That's all we can take.
And that's why we are talking of self-control.
On all sides. That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, we want our Let's Talk. Stay with us. We'll be right back.